The service entrance lock clicked open on the third try. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the key I'd kept hidden in my wallet for 15 months, tucked behind a photo of Luca. I never showed anyone. I never thought I'd use it. Never thought I'd come back here. But I was out of options. Luca stirred against my chest, his small body warm through the carrier strapped to me. 6 months old. Too young to understand that men with dead eyes had been following us. Too innocent to know his mother had spent the last 6 hours running through back alleys and switching subway lines until my legs gave out and my mind went blank with terror. Most of those hours weren't even in New York. Boston had been a hiding place, until it wasn't. Until a single morning turned my quiet streets into a trap. I ditched my phone, paid cash for a last-minute ticket south, and kept Luca's carrier turned inward so no one could get a clean look at his face. By the time the train dumped me into the city, I was already moving on instinct, switching lines, cutting through alleys, counting exits, praying I could stay one step ahead. I pushed through the door into the kitchen I used to know by heart. Everything looked the same. Marble countertops, stainless steel appliances that reflected dim security lights. The espresso machine I'd used every morning for 3 years sat in the exact same spot. My old life. The one I'd burned to the ground. Luca made a small sound, not quite crying but close. He needed water. I needed to mix his formula. Needed to think. Needed to figure out what the hell I was going to say when Nicholas found me here. If he found me here. The lights flicked on without warning. Blinding. I spun around, shielding Luca's face with my hand. Nicholas stood in the doorway with a gun pointed directly at my head. My breath stopped. Everything stopped. He wore black pajama pants and nothing else. His chest was bare, showing the tattoo that wrapped around his ribs. Dark hair messy like he'd been asleep. Eyes sharp and cold and absolutely lethal. He didn't lower the gun. Didn't blink. Just stared at me like I was a ghost he couldn't decide whether to shoot or exercise. Then his gaze dropped. To the baby carrier. To Luca. The gun lowered. Not much. Just enough. I watched recognition slam into him. Watched his entire body go rigid. Watched his jaw clench so tight I heard his teeth grind from 10 feet away. Samantha. My name came out rough. Broken. Like he'd been saying it in his head for months. And finally had permission to speak it aloud. I couldn't respond. My throat had closed up. All I could do was stand there holding our son, while the man I'd run from stared at us both like we'd just rewritten his entire existence. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Security. 3 men in tactical gear burst into the kitchen, weapons drawn. Nicholas raised one hand without looking at them. They froze mid-step. Out. His voice cut through the air like a blade. Boss, we heard. Out. Now. They retreated. The door closed. Silence rushed back in, heavier than before. Nicholas finally holstered the gun at the small of his back. His eyes hadn't left Luca. Not once. How old? Not a question. A demand. 6 months. His jaw worked. Math happening behind those dark eyes. 15 months since I'd disappeared. 9 months of pregnancy. 6 months of life I'd stolen from him. Luca shifted in the carrier, making that small, unhappy sound again. Nicholas's attention sharpened. He needs water. I said quietly. I need to make a bottle. I wouldn't have come here if I had anywhere else to go. Why are you here? They found us. My voice cracked. The triad. They've been following me. 6 hours ago they left photos at my apartment. Photos of Luca. With messages. What kind of messages? I reached into my jacket pocket slowly, pulled out the envelope they'd taped to my door, threw it onto the counter between us. Nicholas moved forward, fast and silent. Picked it up. Read it. His expression didn't change, but his knuckles went white around the paper. They want to use him against you, I whispered. I don't know how they found out. I was so careful. I never told anyone. I changed my name. I moved to Boston. I worked from home. I never went anywhere that... How long have they been watching you? I don't know. The photos are from different places, different months. They've been tracking me for a while. He pulled out his phone, pressed one button. Someone answered immediately. Sweep the property, full perimeter. Check every entrance. Double the guards at every access point. No one gets in or out without my direct authorization." He paused. "And get Dominic up here. Now." He ended the call. Looked at me again. "At Luca. Come here." I hesitated. "Samantha, bring him here." I walked forward on legs that barely worked. Stopped 3 feet away, close enough to see the pulse hammering in Nicholas's throat. Close enough to smell the faint scent of his cologne mixed with sleep and adrenaline. He reached out slowly. Not toward me, toward Luca. Luca's eyes had opened, big and dark and exactly like his father's. He stared up at Nicholas with that serious baby expression that always made my chest ache. Nicholas's hand trembled, just slightly, just enough for me to notice. "Can I?" His voice broke. He cleared his throat, tried again. "Can I touch him?" Something inside me shattered. This man, this dangerous, ruthless, terrifying man, asking permission to touch his own son. Yes. Nicholas's fingers brushed against Luca's cheek, feather light. Reverent. Like he was touching something sacred he didn't deserve. Luca turned his head toward the touch, opened his mouth, made a small cooing sound. Nicholas's breathing changed, got uneven. "His name," he whispered. "Luca. Luca Bellini." His eyes snapped to mine. "You gave him my name. He's your son. You left." The words came out harsh, accusatory. "You disappeared without a word. I looked for you. I searched for 6 months straight. I thought you were dead. I thought someone had taken you. I thought—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "And you were what?" "Living in Boston, pregnant, having my child. Alone. I was protecting him. From what?" "From this." I gestured at the house, at him, at everything. "From men with guns. From enemies who would use him to hurt you. From a world where people get killed over territory and money and power. You don't get to make that choice alone. I made the only choice I could." "Bullshit." He stepped closer. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to hold his gaze. "You ran because you were scared. Not of me, of what it would mean to stay." He was right. I hated that he was right. Luca started fussing again. Louder this time. Real crying. "He's hungry," I said. "And tired. We've been running all day. I need to feed him. I need to—" "Upstairs. Guest room. 2nd floor. East wing. Nicholas, you're not leaving." His voice dropped to something dangerous. Something absolute. "Not tonight. Not until we deal with the triad. Not until I figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with the fact that I have a son I knew nothing about. I'm not asking to stay. I don't care what you're asking. You came here. You brought him here. That makes you both my responsibility. We're not your—" "Yes, you are." He leaned in, close enough that I felt his breath against my face. "Every person who steps into my territory falls under my protection. You know that. You worked for me for 3 years. You know exactly how this works." I did know. That was the problem. "The triad won't stop," I said quietly. "They know about Luca now. They'll keep coming. Let them." His eyes went cold, empty. "I'll kill every single one of them before they get within a mile of my son." My son. He'd already claimed Luca. Completely. Irrevocably. Footsteps approached again. A man appeared in the doorway. Tall, armed, looking between Nicholas and me with barely concealed shock. "Boss, perimeter is secure. I've got teams checking—" He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Luca. "Is that—" "Dominic. Take Samantha upstairs. Guest room. Make sure it's secure. Post 2 guards outside the door. Get whatever she needs for the baby. Food. Supplies. Everything. Boss, I need to brief you on—" "Do it. Now." Dominic nodded once. Looked at me. "This way, Miss Wells." I didn't move. Couldn't stop staring at Nicholas. At the way he was looking at Luca. Like he was memorizing every detail. Like he was afraid we'd disappear again if he blinked. "Samantha." His voice softened. Just barely. "Go. Get him settled. I'll handle the security situation. We'll talk after." "About what?" "Everything." He finally looked at me again. "About why you left. About why you came back. About what happens next. About him." Luca had quieted down, staring at Nicholas with wide eyes. like he recognized something, like some part of him knew. I turned and followed Dominic out of the kitchen. Up the stairs, down hallways I used to walk every day, past rooms I used to clean and organize, and pretend belonged to a normal life. The guest room was massive. King bed, private bathroom, windows overlooking the garden I'd helped plan 2 years ago. "I'll be right outside," Dominic said. "Anything you need, just ask." "Thank you." He left. The door closed, and suddenly I was alone with Luca in Nicholas Bellini's house, exactly where I'd sworn I'd never be again. I unstrapped the carrier, lifted Luca out. He was crying again, for real this time. Exhausted and hungry and overwhelmed. "I know, baby," I whispered, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I pulled out the bottle I'd mixed hours ago. Lukewarm now, but he didn't care. He latched on immediately, drinking fast, his little hands curling into fists. Downstairs I heard voices, orders being given, security protocols activating, the machine of Nicholas's world grinding into motion to protect us, to protect his son. I looked down at Luca, at his dark hair, his serious eyes, the way his tiny fingers gripped my thumb while he ate. He looked so much like his father, it hurt. I'd spent 6 months trying to convince myself that leaving had been the right choice, that raising Luca alone and safe was better than raising him here, surrounded by danger. But tonight, when those men had found us, when I'd seen their faces and their cameras and their threats, I'd known the truth. I couldn't protect him alone. Not from this, not from Nicholas's world. So I'd come back. To the one man I'd spent 15 months trying to forget. The one man who could keep our son safe. The one man I'd never stopped loving. Luca fell asleep 20 minutes after I fed him. I laid him down in the center of the massive bed, surrounded by pillows like a fortress. He looked impossibly small against the white sheets. Vulnerable. Innocent. Everything I'd tried to protect him from was happening anyway. I sat on the floor with my back against the bed, knees pulled to my chest, listening to the sounds of Nicholas's house coming alive around me. Footsteps in hallways, radios crackling, orders being executed with military precision. The door opened without a knock. Nicholas stepped inside and closed it behind him. He'd put on a black t-shirt, but his feet were still bare. His hair was pushed back from his face, revealing the sharp angles I used to watch when I thought he wasn't looking. He glanced at the bed, at Luca sleeping peacefully. "Is he okay?" "He's exhausted. We both are." Nicholas walked closer. Not to me, to the bed. He stood there for a long moment, just staring at our son. His hands opened and closed at his sides like he didn't know what to do with them. "He has my eyes," he said quietly. "I know." "My hair." "Yes." "Does he?" He stopped, started again. "What's he like when he's awake?" The question hit me harder than it should have. He was asking because he didn't know, because I'd stolen that from him. He's serious. He doesn't smile much yet, but when he does, it's everything. He likes being held. He doesn't like loud noises. He's starting to reach for things, grab things. He found his feet last week, and now he's obsessed with them. Nicholas listened to every word like I was handing him pieces of gold. Does he cry a lot? Only when he's hungry or tired. He's actually really calm. Almost too calm sometimes. Like me. Yes, like you. Silence stretched between us. Heavy, loaded. Nicholas finally looked at me. Really looked at me. Not at Luca. Not at the situation. At me. "We need to talk. Downstairs. Dominic will stay outside the door. Luca will be safe." I didn't argue. I stood up slowly, my body aching from hours of running, followed him out of the room, down the hallway, down the stairs, into his office, the same office where I used to bring him coffee every morning, where I'd organize his files and take his calls and pretend my hands didn't shake every time he stood too close. He closed the door, locked it, walked to the bar and poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed me one. "I don't drink anymore. Not since you got pregnant." His voice was flat. "With my child, the one you never told me about." I set the glass down. "I'm not here to defend myself." "Then why are you here?" "I told you. The triad found us. That's why you came back, not why you left. I looked at him, at the tension in his shoulders, at the way his jaw was locked tight, at the fury he was barely controlling. You want to have this conversation now? Tonight? While there are men out there who want to hurt our son? Yes, I want to have it now. Because I've been waiting 15 months for answers and you're finally standing in front of me. Fair enough. I took a breath, let it out slow. 15 months ago, that night, after the deal with the Russians, when you almost got shot. I remember. You came back to the house covered in blood. Not yours. You were shaking. I'd never seen you shake before. His eyes darkened. You brought me water. Sat with me until I calmed down. You talked. You never talked to me before. Not really. But that night you told me things. About your father. About how you inherited this life. About how everyone around you wanted something from you except me. I meant it. I know. That's what scared me. I wrapped my arms around myself. You looked at me like I was the only real thing in your world. And then you kissed me. You kissed me back. I did. And we spent the night together. And it was, my voice cracked. It was the best night of my life, and the worst. Because when I woke up next to you, all I could think about was what happened next. Nicholas moved closer. Not touching me. Just closer. What do you mean? You live in a world where people die, Nicholas. Where enemies come to your house. Where negotiations happen with guns on the table. I'd watched it for 3 years. Watched you bury friends. Watched you come home bleeding. Watched you turn cold because that's the only way to survive. You knew what I was when you started working for me. Knowing something and living it are different things. When it was just me, I could handle it. I could keep my distance, stay professional. But that night changed everything. Because suddenly I wasn't just your assistant anymore. I was someone you'd been vulnerable with. Someone you'd let in. And that terrified you. Yes, I met his gaze. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And I had to choose. Stay here and raise a child in this world. Or leave and give him a chance at something normal. So you ran. I protected him. Nicholas's hand shot out, gripping the edge of his desk so hard his knuckles went white. You protected him from me. No. I protected him from this. I gestured at the office. At the house. At everything it represented. From the men who would use him against you. From the enemies who would target him to hurt you. From a life where he'd grow up watching his father leave every day, not knowing if he'd come back. That wasn't your decision to make alone. What was I supposed to do? Come to you and say I'm pregnant, what's your plan? You would have locked me in this house, put guards on me, treated me like an asset instead of a person. I would have protected you, by making me a prisoner, by keeping you alive. He turned to face me fully. You think I don't know what you did? You moved to Boston, changed your name, got a job as a freelance editor under Sarah Mitchell, rented a studio apartment in Dorchester, cut contact with your sister Ashley, told her you were traveling Europe when really you were 20 minutes from giving birth in a hospital alone. My stomach dropped. How do you? I found you, 3 months after you disappeared. I had your location, your new name, everything. The room tilted. You found me? I found you, and I made a choice, to let you go. I couldn't breathe. Why? Because you wanted out. You'd made it clear by leaving. And He stopped. His jaw worked. I told myself if you wanted to be free of me that badly, I'd give you that, even if it killed me. Tears burned behind my eyes. I didn't want to be free of you. I wanted to be free of the danger. There's no difference. They're the same thing. He was right. They were the same thing. Being with Nicholas meant accepting the violence, accepting the risk, accepting that any day could be the last. I couldn't do it, I whispered. I couldn't watch you die, and I couldn't let Luca grow up watching it either. So you took him away from me entirely. 15 months. 15 months where I didn't know my son existed. 15 months where I thought, his voice broke. I thought you were happy somewhere. Safe. Starting over. And all that time you were raising my child alone. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back the first 6 months of his life. Sorry doesn't let me hold him when he was born. Sorry doesn't let me hear his first sounds or see him smile for the first time or... He stopped, breathed hard. You had no right. I had every right. He's my son, too. And mine. Nicholas moved so fast I didn't have time to react. He was in front of me, hands gripping my shoulders, eyes burning into mine. He's mine, Samantha. You don't get to decide I'm not fit to be his father just because my world is dangerous. You don't get to erase me. I wasn't trying to erase you. Then what were you doing? Surviving. The word came out broken. I was surviving, trying to give him the safest life I could, even if it meant you weren't in it. His grip tightened, then loosened, then dropped completely. He stepped back, running both hands through his hair. The triad, he said finally. Tell me everything. I told him. About the photos taped to my door. About the men I'd seen following me for the past week. About the feeling of being watched that I'd tried to convince myself was paranoia. They want leverage, Nicholas said. They're moving on the port territory. They need something to force my hand. Will it work? He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Do you really think I'm going to let anyone touch my son? What about me? The question hung between us. Dangerous. Important. You're the mother of my child, Nicholas said slowly. That puts you under my protection. Permanently. Whether you like it or not. I'm not asking you to. I don't care what you're asking. This is how it works. You came back. You brought Luca back. That makes you both mine to protect. For how long? Until the threat is eliminated. And after that? His eyes met mine. Cold. Final. After that, we figure out custody. Visitation. Whatever keeps Luca safe and gives him what he needs. Which is? Both of his parents. The words hit me like a physical blow. Both of his parents. Not me alone. Not him alone. Both. I don't know how to do this, I admitted quietly. Neither do I, but we don't have a choice anymore. He moved toward the door, unlocked it, paused with his hand on the handle. You stay here, in this house, until I say otherwise. You don't leave. You don't contact anyone. You do exactly what I tell you to keep Luca safe. Understood? Nicholas, do you understand? I swallowed hard. Yes. Good. He opened the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start dealing with the triad. And after that, he looked back at me. After that, you and I are going to have a much longer conversation about the last 15 months. He left. The door closed behind him. And I stood there in his office, shaking, not from fear, from the realization that I'd just walked back into Nicholas Bellini's life and handed him everything, including my heart. Again. The first morning in Nicholas's house. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to close. Luca was still asleep beside me, peaceful and unaware that our entire world had shifted overnight. Someone knocked softly on the door. I pulled the sheet higher, suddenly aware I was still wearing yesterday's clothes. Wrinkled, dirty, smelling like rain and fear. Come in. A woman in her 50s entered carrying a tray. I recognized her immediately. Maria. The housekeeper who'd trained me when I first started working here 4 years ago. Miss Samantha. Her eyes were warm but cautious. Mr. Bellini asked me to bring you breakfast. And these. She set down the tray and held up shopping bags. Clothes for you and the baby. He wasn't sure of sizes, so he ordered several options. I stared at the bags. At least 6 of them. Designer labels I recognized from organizing his closet. That's not necessary. He insisted. Maria glanced at Luca. Beautiful baby. He has his father's eyes. Everyone kept saying that. Like it wasn't obvious. Like Luca was anything other than a miniature version of Nicholas Bellini. Thank you, Maria. She left quietly. I got up, checked the bags. Baby clothes in various sizes. Diapers. Formula. Bottles. Everything I'd left behind in my panicked flight from Boston. Everything I'd need to stay here for more than a day. He was planning on keeping us here. Making it comfortable. Making it impossible to leave. I fed Luca, changed him, dressed him in new clothes that were softer than anything I could have afforded. By the time I finished, it was almost 9. Late for me. I'd spent 6 months operating on a newborn schedule where 9 felt like afternoon. When I opened the door, Dominic was leaning against the opposite wall. "Morning. Boss wants to see you. Bring the baby." "Where is he?" "Downstairs. Main living room." I followed him down, carrying Luca against my shoulder. The house looked different in daylight. Brighter. More exposed. I could see the upgrades that had happened since I left. New security panels. Reinforced doors. Cameras in corners I didn't remember. Nicholas stood by the windows overlooking the garden. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater. Casual. I'd rarely seen him casual. He turned when he heard us enter. His eyes went straight to Luca. Did he sleep? Most of the night. He woke up twice for bottles. "You should have called someone. You don't have to do it alone anymore." The words landed strange. You don't have to do it alone anymore. Like he was already taking ownership. Already inserting himself into routines I'd built without him. I'm used to it. That's the problem. He moved closer. Not to me. To Luca. "Can I hold him?" My arms tightened instinctively. Protective. Irrational. Nicholas noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. "I'm not going to hurt him, Samantha." "I know. I stopped. Took a breath. He doesn't know you yet. Then he needs to learn." Nicholas held out his arms. Confident. Patient. Waiting. I transferred Luca carefully. Supported his head. Made sure Nicholas had him secure before I let go completely. Nicholas held our son like he was made of glass. Arms stiff. Body tense. Like he was terrified of dropping him or breaking him or doing something wrong. Luca stared up at him. Silent. Studying this stranger with serious, dark eyes. "Hi," Nicholas said quietly. Awkwardly. He stopped. Started again. "I'm Nicholas. I'm your father." Hearing him say it out loud broke something in my chest. Luca made a small sound. Not crying. Just a noise. Nicholas's entire face transformed. Not a smile exactly. Something deeper. Something that looked like wonder and terror and love all at once. "He's so small," Nicholas whispered. "He's actually big for his age. 9 pounds at birth. 17 now. Did you—" He swallowed hard. "Were you alone when he was born?" "Yes." His jaw clenched. "That shouldn't have happened. It did happen, and we survived. You shouldn't have had to just survive." He looked down at Luca again. "Neither of you should have." I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to explain that survival had felt like victory at the time. That every day Luca and I made it through healthy and safe felt like winning. Nicholas spent the next 20 minutes just holding Luca, walking slowly around the room, talking to him in Italian. Words I didn't fully understand but recognized as gentle, soft. Nothing like the voice he used to give orders. When Luca started fussing, Nicholas handed him back immediately, reluctant, like he wanted more time but understood the baby came first. "He's hungry," I said. "I need to feed him." "Do it here. Stay." So I sat on the couch and fed Luca while Nicholas watched. Not creepy, not invasive, just fascinated. Like he couldn't believe this was real. "What does he eat?" Nicholas asked. "Formula. I stopped breastfeeding at 4 months. It was too hard while working." "You were working?" "Freelance editing, from home, under a fake name. I had to pay rent somehow." He processed that. "Were you—" He stopped, restarted. "Did you have help? Friends? Family?" "No. Ashley thinks I'm in Europe. I cut contact with everyone else." "You did it completely alone?" "Yes." He looked at Luca nursing contentedly. "That's over now. You have help. You have me." The next few days unfolded in a strange routine. Nicholas had meetings in his office. Business to conduct. Orders to give. But he appeared constantly throughout the day. During Luca's morning nap. During afternoon tummy time. During evening baths. Always hovering. Always watching. Learning. On the 3rd day, I was changing Luca on the bed when Nicholas knocked and entered without waiting for permission. He was carrying a book. Several books, actually, stacked in his arms. "I've been reading," he announced. I glanced at the titles. Child Development, Baby Milestones, What to Expect the First Year. You bought parenting books? I needed to catch up. He set them down on the nightstand. Did you know babies can recognize faces at 2 months? And they develop object permanence around 6 months? Luca should be starting to understand that things exist even when he can't see them. I stared at him. You memorized developmental milestones? I've been reading since you arrived. I need to know what I missed. What he can do now. What's coming next? Something warm and painful twisted in my chest. He was studying, preparing, trying to compress 15 months of learning into 3 days. Nicholas? Does he roll over yet? He just started. A few weeks ago. Back to front only. He hasn't figured out front to back. And sitting? Not yet. Maybe another month or 2. He nodded, absorbing every detail like it was mission-critical information. What about his schedule? When does he nap? How long? How often does he eat? I told him everything. Wake times, sleep cues, how to tell the difference between tired crying and hungry crying, how he liked being bounced when he was fussy, how he hated being too hot but loved being swaddled tight. Nicholas listened to all of it, took mental notes, asked follow-up questions that showed he was actually paying attention. I want to help, he said finally, with everything, feeding, changing, whatever he needs. I want to learn. Okay, show me how to change a diaper. So I did. Walked him through the steps. How to lift Luca's legs. How to wipe properly. How to fasten the diaper snug but not too tight. Nicholas followed every instruction with intense concentration. Like he was disarming a bomb instead of changing a 6-month-old. When he finished, he looked absurdly proud. Did I do it right? Perfect. He smiled. A real smile. Small but genuine. The first I'd seen since coming back. That night, around 2 a.m, Luca woke up screaming. Not normal crying. Pain crying. The kind that made my heart stop. I grabbed him. Tried everything. Rocking, bouncing, singing. Nothing worked. He kept crying. Pulling his legs up to his chest. Colic. Gas. Something hurting him. The door opened. Nicholas appeared in pajama pants and nothing else. Hair messy from sleep. What's wrong? I don't know. He won't stop. I think it's his stomach. Nicholas crossed the room in 3 strides. Let me try. I handed Luca over, desperate for anything that might help. Nicholas laid him down on the bed gently, placed one large hand on Luca's tiny stomach, started massaging in slow circles, clockwise. Firm, but gentle pressure. I read about this. Nicholas said quietly. Gas relief massage. The pressure helps move air through their system. He kept going, patient, methodical. Luca's crying gradually decreased, turned into whimpers, then stopped entirely. 5 minutes later, Luca let out a massive burp and went quiet. Content. His little face relaxed. I almost cried from relief. Nicholas picked him up, held him against his chest. Luca's head rested on his shoulder. His eyes started drooping. How did you know to do that? I whispered. Chapter 7. Common Discomforts and Solutions. He looked down at Luca. I read all of them. Multiple times. I needed to be ready. Ready for what? For this. For him. For whatever he needs. His eyes met mine. Dark and serious. I missed 6 months. I can't get that back. But I can make sure I don't miss anything else. Watching Nicholas hold our sleeping son, seeing the careful way he supported his head, the protective curve of his body, the absolute devotion in his expression, I felt something crack open inside me. This was what I'd been afraid of. This connection. This bond. Not because it was bad, but because it made leaving impossible. The rest of the first week passed in a blur of new routines. Nicholas rearranged his schedule around Luca. Morning meetings happened during naps. Phone calls got cut short when the baby woke up. Business that used to consume him became secondary to watching his son discover his hands. By day 7, they had their own rhythm. Nicholas did morning diaper changes. I did feedings. He did afternoon playtime while I showered or napped. We took turns with evening bath time, like we were a family, like we'd been doing this together from the beginning. One evening, I came downstairs to find Nicholas on the living room floor. Luca was on his back on a blanket, kicking his legs. Nicholas lay beside him, propped on one elbow, watching. He smiled, Nicholas said without looking at me. A real smile, not gas. I was talking to him and he smiled. He's been doing that for a few weeks now. But he smiled at me. He sounded odd, humbled. His first smile with me. I sat down beside them. Watched Luca grab his feet and shove them toward his mouth. Watched Nicholas laugh softly when Luca made happy baby noises. "You're good at this," I said quietly. "At what?" "Being his father." Nicholas went still. "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go. That's what parenting is. None of us know what we're doing. We just try not to break them. I won't break him." He reached out. Let Luca grab his finger. "I'll protect him from everything, everyone, for the rest of my life." I believed him. That was the terrifying part. I believed Nicholas Bellini would burn the entire world down if it meant keeping Luca safe. "He needs you," Nicholas said, still watching Luca. "You're his mother. You're everything to him. But he needs me too. And his voice roughened. I need him. I didn't know what was missing until I saw him, but now I do, and I can't lose it. I can't lose either of you." The words hung in the air between us. Heavy, true, impossible to take back. I wanted to tell him he wouldn't lose us. Wanted to promise we'd figure this out somehow, but I didn't know how to make promises I couldn't guarantee keeping. So instead, I watched our son play with his father's hand. Watched Nicholas's face soften in ways I'd never seen before. Watched a ruthless mafia boss turn into someone gentle and careful and completely devoted. And I wondered if leaving had ever really been an option at all. The second week started with a routine that felt almost normal. Almost. If you ignored the armed guards at every entrance. If you ignored the security cameras tracking every movement. If you ignored the fact that we were essentially prisoners in a gilded cage. Luca didn't notice any of it. He was happy. Fed. Safe. Learning to love his father. I was the one who couldn't relax. Who jumped at every unexpected sound. Who checked the windows obsessively even though I knew Dominic and his team had the perimeter locked down. Nicholas noticed. He always noticed. "You need to eat more," he said at breakfast on day 8. Luca was in a bouncer seat between us, gnawing on a teething ring. "You've barely touched anything since you got here." "I'm not hungry." "You're anxious." "Of course I'm anxious. There are people out there who want to hurt our son, and there are 20 armed men between them and him. Stop worrying." Easy for him to say. He'd lived with this kind of threat his entire life. I hadn't. I'd spent 6 months believing distance would keep us safe. Now I knew better. The delivery truck arrived at noon. Standard weekly supply run. Food, household goods. Baby supplies I'd requested through Maria. I watched from the upstairs window as 2 of Nicholas's men inspected it. Routine. Normal. Except it wasn't. 15 minutes later, Dominic burst into the living room where I was playing with Luca on the floor. His face was grim. "Where's the boss?" "Office." "Why?" "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. Just pulled out his radio and spoke rapidly in Italian. 2 more guards appeared, positioning themselves at the doors. My stomach dropped. "Dominic." "What happened?" "Stay here. Don't leave this room." He disappeared. I heard footsteps, shouting, the house erupting into controlled chaos. I grabbed Luca, held him against my chest. He made a confused sound, sensing my fear. "It's okay, baby. It's okay." Nicholas appeared in the doorway 5 minutes later. His face was carved from stone. Cold. Lethal. The man I'd seen in business negotiations. The man who made people disappear. He was carrying a manila envelope. "What is that?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just crossed the room and handed it to me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. All of me. Me 7 months pregnant, walking out of my Boston apartment. Me at a prenatal checkup. Me at the grocery store with a newborn Luca in a carrier. Me at the park 2 months ago, pushing a stroller. Me feeding Luca on a bench last week. Different locations. Different months. Different seasons. It felt like they'd been watching me forever. Like the moment I tried to disappear, they were already there. I didn't know how far back it truly went. only that they had Luca in their sights. Oh God. The envelope slipped from my hands. Photos scattered across the floor. They knew. They knew the whole time. Nicholas knelt beside me, started gathering the photos with controlled movements. The package was in the supply truck, hidden under the floorboards. They wanted us to find it. Why? What do they want? Leverage. He stood, photos clenched in his fist. There's a note. They want a meeting. They want to negotiate territory. And they're making it clear they know exactly what to threaten if I don't comply. The port. Yes, the shipping routes I control. They've been trying to move in for months. I've blocked them at every turn. His jaw clenched. Now they think they have a way to force my hand. I looked down at Luca, at his innocent face, at his complete trust that I'd keep him safe. What are you going to do? Handle it. That's not an answer. Nicholas's eyes met mine. Dark. Dangerous. I'm going to find every single member of the triad cell that's been following you. And I'm going to eliminate them. Permanently. That's insane. You can't just... Yes, I can. He moved to the window, phone already in his hand. Dominic, get everyone in the conference room. Now. I want locations on every triad operative in the city. I want surveillance on their safe houses. I want everything. He paced while he talked, giving orders in English and Italian, mobilizing his entire organization, preparing for war. I sat on the floor with Luca, watching.